What's up, guys? This is Kellen with Heathens Brands. We're bringing to you something brand new. Gonna call it Double Axis Podcast. We're kind of going to do a bunch of different subjects with this: combat sports, hunting, shooting and tactical, some real life stuff with people that I know that I find very interesting, and even going to have a couple veterans on to kind of speak about their experiences. The first episode that we're doing here, it's going to be based on UFC 214. I have personally been watching UFC since about the mid-90s, following it off and on. Here lately we've been watching a lot more and have a great interest in it, not just me and Billy, but our other friends as well. We pretty much watch every episode, and just kind of wanted to give a take on everything that isn't so close to the sport. I feel like a lot of the guys that are giving commentary, have personal interest in it, are friends with these people, and it makes it kind of clouded when they make the predictions. So this is all going to be just from an average guy watching the fights and kind of our take on it, and I think that a lot of people will be really interested in that part of it. So Billy, I'll let you introduce yourself, how long you've been watching fighting and everything like that. So.
Okay, my name is Billy Johnson, and I've been watching fighting since probably the early 2000s, and one fight that really sticks out to me was the Stephan Bonner, Forrest Griffin Tough One finale, and just how awesome that fight was, and it really made me a fan. And I found me and Kellen found each other, and I realized how much we had in common on what we like to see in fights and boxing even, and so that's pretty much it.
So were you watching the fights before the Tough One finale? Did you watch the actual season leading up to that?
Yes, I actually watched the season, and I watched some fights before that, but that's really the one that kind of got me hooked, the one that kind of got me really entertained by it, and it showed how aggressive and competitive the sport was. So,
yeah. Well, I guess I started. That was at the tail end of the VHS going to the DVD, but I can remember trying to sneak UFCs in with the wrestling tapes that my grandma was renting us at Blockbuster or whatever, just trying to sneak them in, and finally she just kind of gave into it and let me put one in there, and from that moment on I watched it. I can remember going over to girlfriends' houses and they'd be like, "Hey, I got a surprise for you," and pull out Ultimate Shamrock or whatever on VHS, and so I watched the lead up to that, and then of course when the actual finale came on, I know you saw me post that picture on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah. I was actually in Jamaica when that happened, so I kind of closed the world out. And at that point in time, it wasn't social media driven, so you can kind of close out the world. So I didn't know what happened until I got back from Jamaica, popped the tape in and saw it. And one of the main draws for me was Rich Franklin, Ken Shamrock. I really wanted to see what Ken Shamrock had in him at that point in time, which ended up not being much, unfortunately. So, but that's cool that fight drew you into it, and so you've been watching pay-per-views and stuff from that point on sporadically, or whenever you could. Yeah.
And I was also one of the with the old-time movie stores. I would also go in and I would rent, like if I didn't order the pay-per-view, I would rent it and watch it.
Right.
So
yeah, at that point in time, it was probably a lot easier not to get those events spoiled. I remember watching Prize and UFCs that I genuinely didn't have an idea what happened. Then I kind of went into full-blown insanity with it, and I would get, I don't know if you remember Full Contact Fighter. It looked like a newspaper, but it was like kind of like a magazine.
Yeah.
I got boxes of them somewhere, but after that period, kind of could keep up with it, and then of course the internet exploded going into college for me, and you really could keep up with everything. So, but anyways, that's a good kind of trip down memory lane on kind of how we got started watching, and I'm sure we'll get more into it. The more of these that we do. So, but this, like I said, this episode is going to be focusing on UFC 214. We're going to do a couple of the prelim breakdowns and picks, and then also going into the main card and make some predictions and kind of breaking it down how we see it in our mind. Whether that's right or wrong, I guess we won't know until next weekend. This is 7/22, so tonight is Gastelum versus Weidman on TV, so I guess we should say that. So we're making these picks a week early, kind of giving our ideas, going to put it on YouTube and let it kind of sit there for for the whole week, and then I guess we'll see how we did at the end. So, anyways, let's dive into these picks. So, a fight that you were interested in that we put on the list was Lamas versus Knight. Unfortunately, we put it on kind of right before this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You knew about it, but I did not have a chance to kind of break that down. I haven't seen Ricardo Lamas fight a lot. It seems like in the bigger fights that I've seen him fight in, unfortunately, he came up short. So if you want to kind of break that down and kind of give your thoughts on it, and I'll chime in a little bit if I can, and if not, then we'll just kind of see how it rolls.
To me, it kind of seems like Ricardo Lamas kind of crumbles under pressure, and when the spotlight's on him, and they're on the prelims, and Brandon Knight, or Jason Knight rather, is
UK fan here. So.
Yeah, I'm a UK fan. Brandon Knight. So, but Jason Knight, he's a pretty tough kid. He's from Mississippi. He's got a lot of heart. I've seen him get hit in fights and just keep coming and actually end up winning. So my pick is Jason Knight for that fight, and I think that Ricardo Lamas is not gonna be able to produce the energy that he's gonna have. So
you think he's basically just gonna outwork him, and
pretty much,
and sooner or later he's gonna kind of keep plodding forward until he's able to be victorious. That's interesting. Like I said, I didn't dive into it a lot. I think really the theme of this card when I look down into it is kind of who's proven, who's fought the higher caliber guys. It's a great card from top to bottom, but you've got a lot of kind of up and coming guys versus established guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that fits into it. For me, not really, like I said, even seeing Knight fight much at all. I would probably have to stick with Lamas because he's just a much more proven commodity. He's been higher caliber fights. He's been on the brink of the title fight several times. He actually was this 145 pound, 135, 145. He actually fought for the title.
I think it's 145.
Okay, he fought for the title at one point in time, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think he fell short. We probably need to fact check. We talked about having a laptop up, so we'll do that from now on. But I think he's just fought the higher caliber guys, and I think that'll probably be a factor in this fight, especially with it being on the undercard. Like you said, he's kind of got that right to the cusp, and then kind of falls a little bit short. So being an undercard, a little bit lower key. I would say that the pressure is probably off of him to try to produce in this particular instance.
Really, he has nothing to lose if he does lose against Jason Knight on a prelim. I mean, there's really nothing to lose because Jason Knight, from what I've saw and what I've seen him do, seems to be a pretty respected fighter, and I think he's got like 24 total fights. So I mean, he's kind of seasoned and stuff.
So your knowledge is going to prove to be. I slack on the lower weight classes. I'm not going to lie to you.
I do. I really do too. But I like watching Jason Knight fight.
Okay.
I just really like it just because the heart and pressure that he puts on people. He kind of outworks them and stuff.
Well, we'll put a K or a B by the name, so that way we'll know whenever.
Well, I guess we'll keep up with statistics for you guys.
Win-loss record.
Yeah.
It might be ugly here. Look like a pitcher for the Reds. So, all right. So, Barao versus Sterling, kind of the next fight. What are your thoughts on that?
That, like Kellen just said, that's another fight where that's an established guy, a guy that actually held a title, a bantamweight title. Going up against a new kind of up-and-coming guy that's super athletic. My pick is probably gonna be Barao, just because he's just so much more experienced. I don't think Sterling's ready for him yet. Sterling being athletic and all, he might be able to hang in there for maybe a round or two and just kind of like be there. But I think Barao's really gonna outwork him, maybe finish him off. Maybe in the end of the second round. So,
yeah, I agree with that assessment. I think Barao has fought much higher competition. His only losses are to guys that are just really there at the top. All close fights too. It's not like he's getting blown away. The only time he was actually finished was in the title fight. In recent history. So I agree with that assessment. I think Barao's going to win it. I think his experience. Kind of in the limelight, is really going to prove effective. Sterling, a lot of his wins didn't blow your hair back. It seems like his losses are to the top tier guys. You know, if Barao has anything left at all, then I feel like it should be a relatively easy fight for him. And then Sterling's going to continue to get better and grow. And at some point in time, I would say that he would probably start knocking off those top tier guys. But right now, I just don't see anything in his record that sticks out to me. Anything that I've seen from him that really proves it otherwise. So. We both have Barao on that one.
Yeah,
so
we're both on the same page with that fight.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So then we move up to the main card. We've got Manuwa versus Ozdemir. You know, Ozdemir kind of stormed onto the stage, and Manuwa's kind of been up at the top for a little while. What is your kind of train of thought on that one?
They're both. I think Manuwa is a little bit more well-rounded than Ozdemir. I think Ozdemir's kind of almost one-dimensional with his just kickboxing. He's a 5-0 kickboxer, and he only has one loss, and it was a TKO. And no, actually, it was a submission. And Manuwa, I think, is more proven, but for some reason, I'm kind of leaning more towards Ozdemir. I think maybe Manuwa might try to stand with him, and he might get surprised. So that's kind of my pick.
So you're going with Ozdemir or Manuwa?
Ozdemir.
Okay, so
yeah,
I think
Ozdemir is probably, he might surprise people. I think Manuwa might want to try to stand with him because he's got, I believe he's got 15 KO TKO finishes. So he might try to stand with him. And
I'll be honest, I was shocked when you said that Ozdemir had a 5-0 kickboxing record. You know, just in our pre-show prep when you said that, because I saw nothing from him that indicated that he had any power, speed, or anything. You know, to me, watching him, he seemed more like a grappler, or grinder. So I was kind of blown away by that. I think that Manuwa is just in a better class of fighters than him. I think Ozdemir has done a lot of things that have surprised people coming in. He's done it in a relatively short amount of time, and I think now that people are probably going to get a little bit more film on him and be able to kind of break down the mistakes he's making, because to me, I was not impressed at all with even his last performance. I actually watched that full card. I hadn't seen him fight before that because a lot of the things that he's fought on have been in Fight Pass or whatever it may be, and I didn't have access to that. So I really think that Manuwa was just a better class. I think Manuwa was right there at the top. I think he's going to show that. I would say that he'll probably finish Ozdemir. So that's kind of my take on it. I think he's got much more power, much more explosiveness, and much more experience being on, kind of a main UFC card, especially on the pay-per-view format.
Yeah, he's been there before, for sure.
Yeah. So, well, we got another split one. So somebody's record's going to be bad next time.
Like Conor McGregor says, someone's always got to go.
So the next fight up was Cerrone versus Lawler. To me, this is the hardest fight on the card to pick.
It's a super interesting fight, for sure.
Super interesting. I'll let you kind of give your thoughts on it because that's kind of the path that we follow throughout this. So you want to go ahead and break it down, and I'll chime in if necessary or afterwards.
As I was, I pulled up this card and I was going through every fight, and as I was going through every fight, this one popped out to me. Like he said, it was like, man, this is going to be a really good one. And from the way that I look at it and my opinion on it, I think that Cerrone is going to get outstruck. I think Robbie Lawler is just a lot more aggressive. I think he's been in wars and he can take hits and stand there, and he actually kind of likes it, I think. So he's going to stand there and just thump with him pretty much. And we've seen Cerrone get outstruck before with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz picked him apart, and I think Robbie Lawler might be a better boxer than Nate Diaz. Really, he's got a lot more power anyway. So I think that Robbie Lawler's going to finish Cowboy Cerrone. But Cowboy Cerrone's just going to bounce back like he always does and probably fill in for somebody pretty soon. So
yeah, I tend to agree with you on that one as well. Lawler's a much bigger fighter. He's shown a lot of durability over the years, especially in his kind of resurgence in the welterweight division. Didn't really seem like he could be phased or touched at all until he fought Woodley. And I think that was kind of more of a flash and knockout type deal. And I think this is going to be a brawl. I mean, it's definitely going to be a fan favorite type fight. I think that there's probably a lot easier fights out there for Cerrone. Everybody wanted to make this fight happen. Even when Cerrone he had like a blood infection or something crazy.
Yeah, he almost had like a septic blood infection,
yeah.
So it was pretty.
So
pretty
he had
wild.
to pull out of the last pay-per-view, and then they rescheduled it for this one. I just don't see it being a good fight for him. I think Cerrone could be very effective using his kicks, and in that aspect of it. But I think that for the most part, Lawler being the bigger guy, more kind of the more experienced, especially at welterweight, with big fights, and I think that he'll kind of walk him down, and I think he'll put hands on him.
Oh yeah.
And I love both of these guys so much. Watching Lawler back in the day, I know you're a big Diaz fan. I've never been a Diaz really fan. I remember when he got knocked out by Diaz, and I was just so blown away. And then he was like in purgatory for a long time, kind of over in Strikeforce and other things, and then he kind of resurged and then came back to win the title. And I never remember being happier for a guy.
Oh yeah.
And I just feel like he's been around forever. He's been up in these big fights. He's felt guys a lot more powerful, being at 85 and 70 all this time. And I love Cerrone to death. I really do. I think his place is probably down at 55. I know a lot of people are touting 70. But kind of the guys that he's fought at 70 have been kind of 10th or lower on the ranking list. I'm sure he might have tussled with some top 10 guys, but he's one of those guys, man, that gets right there to the top, and then something happens, and he just can't break through that barrier.
It's like a Uriah Faber curse or something. Almost.
Yeah, but at least Faber had gold for a long time in the WC, and he just couldn't kind of recapture the magic. Cerrone's never really had the magic. He's a fan favorite. He's got awesome sponsors. He's a great follow on Instagram or social media. He's very interesting in the Rogan podcast and things like that. But I just don't see the top 5 of the welterweight division being a good place for him. It's stacked with killers, guys that are going to not match up well with him, and Robbie Lawler's kind of that guy. He's the guy that should be able to take everything he's got and deliver back, and he's going to be a much more powerful fighter.
For sure.
And I just seeing that being a big factor. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 of Cerrone's punches versus Lawler's. Now, that being said, there is some type of scenario where Cerrone could win this. He could catch him.
He could,
especially with knees and kicks. I don't really see him finish him with hands, but definitely with knees and kicks, he could walk in something.
Maybe even jiu-jitsu even.
Yeah, I don't
see a finish really.
I don't see him being able to get Lawler down and hold him down. He's just too big and powerful.
The only way that I see Cerrone actually winning this fight is outstriking him, throwing 3-1.
Yeah.
Throwing
definitely volume.
Volume. Leg kicks. Leg kicks are a huge factor. If he lands a lot of leg kicks, maybe gets Lawler to switch stances and kind of take him out of his own world. But he's only going to outpoint him. That's the only way I see it going. I see Lawler actually finishing, but I don't see Cerrone finishing.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so next we have the 145-pound title fight for the ladies. That's Cyborg versus Evinger. I'll hand it over to you and let you break it down here, and then we'll kick it back to me and go from there.
All right. Cyborg is just one of those tough, overwhelming women fighters that kind of like we have Hoist Gracie and Ken Shamrock and Mark Coleman, and those guys are the godfathers of male MMA, and Cyborg is in that category, I think, for female MMA. There's probably never going to be anybody like her, really, and she kind of just overwhelms these girls. And Evinger is the current Invicta MMA champion, bantamweight champion, but that being said, I still don't think that she has what it takes to keep up with Cyborg. Cyborg's overwhelming striking. She trains with men. I've seen a video of her picking up Tito Ortiz, like Tito got her in an arm bar, triangle, and she picks him up off the ground like a 215-pound guy at the time.
Oh, probably 220
at least. Yeah, he's like 6'3", so. she's just gonna overwhelm her. She's got too much power, and she's been in it a long time. Not saying Evanger hasn't, but Evanger hasn't ever sparred or fought anybody like this. So
yeah, she's really hard to recreate because of her power. Kind of the cleanliness of her strikes. There's really nothing that you can do in training to prepare you for that.
Mm-mm.
And since Cyborg kind of joined the ranks of the UFC, we haven't seen a chink in her armor at all. She has lost before, and definitely is capable of losing in the future. But this weight division was made for her. It's kind of been a rocky road with her in the UFC, but this weight division is made for her. And, she's already scared the 145-pound champion back down to 135, and I think that says enough as it is right there.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll really have a hard time finding people to fight her. And it's great that you have people like Evanger that are willing to step up. And, I'm sure she has a chance, but I just can't see it at this point in time. I think Cyborg, like you said, she's overwhelming. She's so powerful. She's good on the ground, even though you really don't ever see it. She's not only training with men, but she's training with Gabby Garcia and ladies like that are really tough grapplers. So I just see her being prepared at all facets of this fight, and I think the time for her to win this belt is now. Unfortunately, Evanger kind of came into this scenario late. I would rather seen Durandamine, but it is what it is, and I think she'll just bulldoze her.
That's the same way I think. And Evanger was actually on the Ultimate Fighter. Do you remember that?
I do not.
She was beat in the preliminaries by Raquel Pennington.
Yeah, my life became so saturated with MMA, I had to take a break from it. So Ultimate Fighter isn't something that I kind of jump back into.
Yeah.
Although with this upcoming season, I might jump back into it. They just announced Eddie Alvarez is going to fight. Yeah,
Justin Gaethje.
So that's kind of interesting to me. It's just been hard for me to watching as long as I have stick with it because it just becomes overwhelming.
And bringing up that show has changed so much over the years. I mean, they went live for a season, and that wasn't very. I mean, it wasn't very.
They've had a hard time keeping the fans, and the ratings are kind of struggling right now, and they need some type of controversy or something to bring it back to the forefront, and I'm not sure that they'll be able to find it with Alvarez versus Gaethje.
Yeah.
They're both good guys. They both make for an outstanding fight. The fight's going to be awesome, but I'm not sure that they can pump up the adrenaline.
I see Justin Gaethje maybe trying to take from Conor McGregor and kind of be like trying to be a trash talking guy and all that probably.
Yeah. But he just comes off as too nice of a guy. I don't know if it'll work for him.
And then
it might work for him because people haven't seen him. That's the thing. He's going for him.
And one thing that I think too that would probably me being a heavyweight fan.
Rough time to be a heavyweight fan too.
Yeah,
Oof.
yeah. There's all kinds of stuff going on. But what I really think that they should do is another heavyweight season because with Ultimate Fighter 10, I really like that season a lot, and so I'm a big Kimbo Slice fan, and so him being on there and
a lot of really productive fighters came off that season too.
We got Matt Mitrione who just KO'd Fedor pretty much, and
too soon.
Yeah, it's too soon to bring it up and talk about it. We're both Fedor fans, so I'll call the fights like I see them, but I'm not a Matt Mitrione fan at all.
He's kind of winning me over.
He's kind of winning you over.
Like I said, he was on Fighter and the Kid right after that, and we're like, what are you doing to celebrate? And he's like, I just had a pretty tough negotiation at the pawn shop for a bike for my girlfriend. He seems like
he's a humble guy, down to earth guy,
very down to earth.
But I don't know, just the meathead in him. Every time I see him do that little smirk across the octagon or across the ring, I just see the meathead in him, and I don't like it. So, but I will call fights fair.
Well, we get off a little tangent there, but we'll get back to
that's part of a podcast here. So.
We'll get back to the podcast here. Woodley versus Maia, 170-pound title fight. What are your thoughts on that?
This is an interesting matchup as well. Maia being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Woodley being a really good wrestler, NCAA wrestler, and having really good boxing. And Maia's boxing has improved over the years, but it's not on like a Tyron Woodley level. I'm kind of thinking Woodley takes this one. I think that he'll be able to fend off Maya. Maya trying to pull guard, maybe Maya trying to get his back. I think he can. Outwork him. I think Tyron Woodley actually probably finishes Maya, in my opinion.
Yeah, the thing that makes this fight a scary fight for Woodley is the same thing that it makes for anybody that's fighting Maya, is that he's just a killer once he gets to the ground. I'll think of like shocking moments like I guess when he fought Chael Sonnen, he climbed Chael Sonnen's back like a monkey and had him choked out before you knew it. And then another kind of eye-opening fight for me was when he fought Condit. I thought Condit was going to bust on him. I love Carlos Condit. Couldn't see any way that he would be able to get close enough to get Carlos down and finish the fight. And he did, and it's just mind-blowing. Maya's such a big guy too. Like I've heard a lot of people talk about how big and how heavy he is just walking around and how much weight he cuts to make 170. So all those factors are terrifying. That being said, I can't see him beating Woodley. I think Woodley's just too strong, too powerful, too quick. I don't see any way that Maya can get close enough to be effective against him. I just see Woodley, keeping him at a distance and finally finishing him with strikes. I just can't see it any other way in my head. Of course, if it goes to the ground,
it's not.
He's in trouble.
Him,
he's in trouble. But it's the problem of getting him down to the ground.
Yeah.
Woodley's a high-level wrestler. He's been awesome here of late. You saw how effective he was against a striker, and Wonder Boy. And even whenever he took him down, you could see the big difference in the game. I don't think that Woodley's going to want to venture into that water with Maya. I think he'll use his boxing, keep him off, and eventually catch him with one of those big freaking rockets and putting him down and finishing him. I think this is, in the world of killers of 170 as well, this is a pretty easy fight for him. It's definitely well-deserved for Maya. He's definitely won enough fights in a row and beat tough enough opponents to be in this position. I just don't think that it's a favorable matchup for Maya, and I see Woodley finish him. So
I agree with you.
Both on the same page there. So I guess it's just a big mega fight at this point. It's Cormier versus Jones. So
the one that we're
spit some knowledge.
The one that we're sitting here talking about, and the reason why we're sitting here really is this fight. It's an exciting fight. It's an interesting fight. You got a controversial person in John Jones. He's been in the media over the past probably 5 years, really, getting into trouble and failing drug tests, and really, not really very professional. He's a professional person, but his personal life gets in the way of that, and it casts a big shadow. It's almost like Mike Tyson. He's a super skilled fighter, one of the greatest of all time probably, but his personal life has gotten in the way of that, and a lot of people are going to remember a lot more of the negative things that he's done instead of the positive things. And that being said, I'm a big DC fan. I like John Jones. I respect John Jones. I'm a big DC fan though, and I'm not picking this fight based off of my favorite out of the two, but I see DC beating John Jones this time. And the reason why I say that is because John Jones was out for over a year, and he came back and fought OSP, and it was a sloppy, kind of not like a John Jones domination fight. And OSP almost seemed kind of like almost intimidated by him, so it was kind of just like a cautious kind of weird fight almost. And DC trains at AKA, trains against Cain Velasquez. So that itself, who's been injured, but that itself proves enough to me. And I see DC putting pressure on him and using his wrestling this time around. Using his wrestling, he's got good striking. It's improved a lot since his Strikeforce days. His Strikeforce days, he kind of just relied on his takedowns and the ground and pound. But his striking's improved. I see him putting pressure on him, and I don't see him finishing Jones. I see him getting a decision, but I see him outworking him. I see him having. I've seen him have cardio to go. John Jones had tough fight against Gustafson, and DC picked up Gustafson and slammed him down. I mean, but if the John Jones shows up that fought OSP, I don't think that he can beat DC right now. I think he's going to have some ring rust and maybe have some stuff in his head. He's probably not going to have a clear mentality right now, really. So,
well, I'm going to say first off that I'm shocked by that pick, and I'll go into a little bit of background here first, and then I'll tell you why I'm shocked. So, to me, looking at it, Cormier, he's been at the top of the division since Jones left. He hasn't really had too many dominating performances. Even when he kind of fought Anderson Silva, UFC 200, he really didn't just blow him out of the water, in any facet. I felt like Cormier could get him down or hurt him on the feet or a lot of those things. And I thought at the end of that, he kind of got tired, and Anderson won the third round. So, in all of his fights, in the Gustafson fight, even in the Anthony Johnson fight, he got hit and he got hurt early on, and he ended up kind of winning the later rounds of that fight with his takedowns and stuff like that. And then the second fight, with Johnson, I'm not even really sure what I saw of that. So I'm not sure that that's an accurate gauge to go on. But Cormier seems like a good guy. He's got heavy hands. He's beat not only some of the top guys at light heavyweight, but also at heavyweight too. Guys like Frank Mir, who are going to be legends in the UFC heavyweight division and maybe Bellator at this point.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Yeah,
hopefully
that'd be good. So you got to factor all that stuff in. That being said, Jones is he's out of the stratosphere when you look at his record.
For sure.
I mean, let me say, in the very beginning, I saw him fight, and he had Philippians 4:13 tattooed across his chest, and he came across as this kind of holier-than-thou person. And I kept telling people, this is not who he is. I don't know. I have a really good intuition when I see people. I'm like, this is not who he is. I don't think he's a good guy. He's a fantastic fighter, even early on. But something just doesn't add up to me. And, like most of the time it does, sooner or later, the wool's going to kind of get pulled out from your eyes, and you're going to be able to see who he truly is. And over the last couple of years, we've seen who he truly is. It's what I thought all along. I felt like I was vindicated at that point for my opinion. Fantastic fighter. Nobody touches him in the ring.
Yeah, he's.
But I just feel like you said, the personal stuff has caught up to him with him, and he's just presents himself as one person on camera. And then you see the stuff that he says behind the stages to Cormier or whoever it may be. You're like, this is not a good guy. This is not a guy that has learned from his experiences. I don't care what he says on camera. That doesn't matter to me. You can present yourself however you want on camera, but the person that you actually are behind the scenes is who you really are. And I don't feel like he's a good person. I don't feel like he's learned. He's got popped for a plethora of things over the last couple of years. I'm shocked at this point that the fight's actually going to happen. It's only a week away, and I guess something could still happen.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't.
But I hope it doesn't either. But, like you said, he didn't perform well last time against OSP. That could have been that it wasn't the fight in his heart. He was bored with it, whatever it may be. But the reason I'm shocked is because, kind of like what I told you last week when we kind of text our picks back and forth, and I told you that I thought that that Romero was going to lose. I made that pick kind of more with heart than with mind, because on paper, once again, Romero had been steamrolling everybody, and you could see how he could easily win that fight. But I'm on the same page with you. I think Cormier gets it done, and I think that Cormier has the power to stop him. I think that Jones could get in there clowning. He could get in there and be rusty and not have the right timing, the right footwork, and everything else. And Cormier could catch him napping and put him to sleep. The thing that scares me is, you said that you thought that, like, with the grappling with Gustafson and all that stuff, he has thrown everybody on their head. Yeah. Heavyweights, light heavyweights, it doesn't matter. But he didn't with Jones. Yeah. And I don't see that changing. I don't know what he could do to improve his wrestling at like almost 40 years old. He might even be 40 now. At this age, to be able to get over that hurdle and be able to out-wrestle Jones, I don't see it happening. I think his only hope is to kind of play the power game, pick his shots, stay on the feet, and hope to catch him early and often. I think the later it goes, the more it kind of falls into Jones's realm, and I think Jones can kind of win rounds at that point. I don't see any evidence at this point that Jones will be able to finish Cormier. I mean, it's possible with a plethora of strikes or getting him down and submitting him. But I think Cormier is the only one that has the fight-ending power in this scenario. And I'm just going with my heart, man. I think Cormier is a better guy. I think he gets a bad rap. I don't really know why fans don't rally around him. I can't figure it out. His some of his Instagram and Facebook and Twitter posts are hilarious. Did you see the one about the leg genetics?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's gold. And, you got a full list of things that Jones puts out there, and he says one thing and just drop the mic. Forget about it. It's a instant classic. So I'm going with my heart. I think everything on paper says Jones is a better striker. He's more experienced as far as winning these big-time title fights. Everything is in Jones's corner except for the it factor, and I just feel like it's in Cormier's hands at this point. I think I think this is the time for Cormier to win. If he wins, I think he should get the heck out of the sport.
Yeah.
I think this should be his swan song. I don't think that he should do a rubber match with Jones. I think he needs to be emphatic with this one. He needs to go guns blazing in the first and second round, try to finish this fight, and walk away.
Yeah.
Because, the hopes of beating a John Jones that has, a title fight and then got the ring rust off and then continuing to improve at this point, it's going to be hard. It's insurmountable. So I think now's the time. And, I guess at this point, if he does beat Jones and he does finish Jones, what happens with Jones? I don't know. I don't see Jones as being a mentally strong person. Apparently the people that are around him aren't able to pull him out of this. You would think, being a light heavyweight legend, you would have good enough people to be like, hey, dummy, stop doing this.
Yeah.
You have your everything. But apparently he doesn't have the people around him. Maybe it's going to take a move. I don't really know. But like I said, I'm completely going with my heart, picking Cormier. And I can see him finishing the first couple rounds just with strikes. Just he's got to clip him, get him hurt. Jones has really never been clipped and hurt before, and I would love to see what happens in that scenario.
I'd like to see how he reacts. Like you said.
Absolutely.
He's never been caught really. He's probably in his head thought he was untouchable. Usually when people get to where they think that they're untouchable, somebody tags them, and they end up kind of wobbly and they don't really react well.
Yeah,
so
there's no way.
Yeah.
I call them front runners. Although that being said, Gus is the only one that came close to doing that, and he kind of battered Jones there, and he talked about the heart of Gustafsson and stuff like that. But I think they both showed great heart. I think they both showed great determination. That being said, I don't think Gustafsson has the pure power that Cormier does. I think Gustafsson's more of a volume puncher. I think he can land you with, like he finished a share with a sneaky uppercut. I think that is possible with Gustafsson, but I think Cormier, that he just has that inexplicable power.
It's explosiveness. Is really a good word for it. It's an explosiveness coming from somebody shorter. Probably he's going to weigh more when they fight. Maybe
it's probably going to be about the same. Jones is
the height,
gigantic.
The height.
He's a gigantic dude.
But
it's not in his legs though, as Cormier would say.
Yeah, well, it really isn't.
No,
from what I see.
Oh gosh, poor guy needs to do some calf raises.
You got somebody DC size can explode into somebody that's taller than him. And
if it's a flush right hand, I don't see Jones being able to stand through it. But I mean, he may surprise us all, because like I said, there's been no chinks in his armor. I just feel like it's however many years of bad karma that he's put out there. The only thing that hasn't happened to this guy is him have something as a negative record on his in the octagon. And I feel like that could be the best or worst thing that happened to him. And I really hope that Cormier is the guy, because, I think Gustafsson, go ahead and make this pick. If Cormier doesn't ride off to the sunset, I think Gustafsson beats either one of them at this point.
Yeah.
So, I think it could be a best or worst thing for him either way, and we'll see. We'll see what happens, how he comes back. But I think Cormier gets it done, and hopefully rides off in the sunset. So.
I got one more question for you, and you kind of touch base with it a little bit. If DC gets beat by Jones, does he retire?
I really don't know what else you could do in the sport, man. I feel like he got into it so late in life. And he's already done everything that he could do, and the only thing that he has left is to beat his nemesis. And I feel like, what are you going to do? You're going to lose twice to the guy and climb back through the ranks. The only thing you can say is though, with Johnson kind of riding off in the sunset, it's cleared up a top three. You got Jones, Cormier, and Gustafson. Everything below that, I think Shogun's like 4 or 5. Maybe Manawa.
And Teixeira is probably like 6. He dropped.
No, I would say he's probably dropped closer
lower?
to 10. Yeah, at this point,
Yeah,
because Gustafson really outclassed him there, and I think that's. I remember going back to Teixeira Jones title fight. Somebody asked me, "Are you going to watch this fight?" And I said, "No." And they're like, "Wow, what's wrong with you?" I was like, Teixeira's a tough dude, and I look for him as much as anybody else to come in the UFC. But when he came in there, I wasn't blown away. No. I said it's going to be a sparring match for John Jones, and that's exactly what happened. So I feel like there's a gigantic drop off even to Jimmy Manuwa, and I know that Manuwa's got the power to beat any of those guys, but I just think those guys are just too well rounded for him to be mentioned in that conversation. And Shogun's legacy's already cemented. I don't see him getting up there for another title fight. I think he's going to be in the middle of the ranks, kind of in the Manuwa era, and these top 3 guys are the only ones that you have left. So, I mean, maybe just on bad blood alone, Cormier could get another shot, but I don't see it, man. I think this should be his swan song one way or the other. Even if he gets beat by Jones, they're going to say you lost to the best light heavyweight ever. And he should be able to be okay with that. Be like, okay, I'm not better than him in the octagon, but I seem like a good person. I'm a good dad. I don't break the law. And he should be able to kind of fall back on that and be like, I'm a pretty good guy. I've accomplished as much as I can in the sport. I'm a champion, and that should be it. But I just feel like that it's some type of karmic justice that he's gonna catch Jones, finish him, put him away, and be done with it all. Yeah. So, hopefully that's how it plays out. I guess time will only tell, and I guess we'll both be rooting for the same person next weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And if he does retire, which he probably will, like he's saying, he doesn't have very much more to do in the sport and combat sports in general. I do like him as an analyst.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, that would be a good spot for him. Really.
For sure. Yeah, mm-hmm. I think he's set in that factor.
Yeah.
It's kind of. I mean, there's no question that. I just don't see him being able to do anything else in the sport unless he wanted to go back up to heavyweight. Heavyweight's kind of open, but then you got Kane up there and their training partners.
If I was him, I wouldn't want anything to do with Kane or Stipe.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I don't think he'd ever fight Kane, and I'm not sure that he could beat Stipe other than just taking him down. So. All right, so we're both on the same page with that. So I'm sure you saw it on my list here. I want to throw you a curveball. We didn't talk about it all, but tonight is the Gastelum-Weidman, the main event. That's the fight that I care about most tonight. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that one before we kind of wrapped everything up here.
Okay. Gastelum is really good, really explosive. What he did to Vitor was...
too soon for that one too.
Too soon, yeah. We like the legends where we've been watching for so long and been fans for so long. We like the legends, but Kevin Gastelum is really, really explosive and has really good strikes. But Weidman is a huge guy, and I see Weidman taking him out. Weidman knocked out the untouchable Anderson Silva, which was on a downfall really in his career.
Yeah, it had to catch up with him sooner or later as well. And he had been fighting guys that, the thing with Anderson, I was never an Anderson fan either. So many of the guys, you go look at the list of the guys he beats, they talk about him being the greatest of all time. And I guess we're going to get hate right off the bat here on First Podcast. But they talk about him being the greatest of all time. And, his accomplishments inside the octagon definitely can be touched. But he fought so many guys that were just not of title fight,
they
quality.
weren't championship caliber guys.
They were guys that after they fought for the title, the next thing you know, they're out of the UFC, and it takes them forever.
And a lot of them probably have regular jobs now, really, a lot of the guys that he fought.
Well, the thing about it is, it's like you have people that are a product of their time, and he just happened to come around in the 185-pound division where there wasn't much past Rich Franklin at that point in time. So I think it really worked to his advantage. So, Weidman did stop Anderson twice pretty convincingly. Second time, kind of a freak deal. And he put it on Machida after that, and he beat Vitor. I'm not sure if Vitor should have been in the ring at that point in time. With the post TRT thing, I think he should have took some time off and came back. And I think that Vitor's still dealing with that. Kind of talking about the Gastelum deal. But I think Gastelum's hands are fantastic. I've been very impressed with him. I haven't got to see a ton of his fights, especially since he moved up from 85. I got to see the highlights when he fought Tim Kennedy, and then I got to see the Vitor fight. Super impressed with his boxing. He's got fantastic hands. They're very fast for 185 pounds.
For sure, he's explosive.
Yeah, but like you said, Weidman's a huge guy. So I think it's a matter of who plays whose game. I'm going to pick Weidman. I love Weidman. I want to see him recapture the magic. I thought he was winning all three of the fights that he's lost. I think that gas has been an issue for him. I think he, won all three of the fights that he lost. He won the first rounds in all of them. And at that point, he seemed to make a turn where he just couldn't recapture that magic and kind of put the offense back on whoever he was fighting. So I think it's a matter of whose game plan gets implemented. If it's just a pure brawl, I would have to lean towards Gastelum. I think his hands are faster. I think he hits very hard, even being a smaller 85 pounder. I think he hits very hard, and he's coming in volume. Vitor was getting hit with 2 or 3 punches before he even knew what happened. I think if Weidman plays the basics, he keeps him off of the jab. He's going to be a longer, taller, bigger fighter. Keeps him off the jab, follows it up with just straight combinations. Doesn't try to get loopy. Doesn't try to get in a brawl. I think he needs to take him down, man. I think he needs to get back to what got him there.
Wrestle. And
that the second that left hook landed against Anderson Silva, everything changed, man. And right before that, he had knocked Munoz out with that elbow. I mean, that was a nasty strike. And guys kind of get used to that. They're like, "Oh man,
I'm a
this is a
striker
highlight knockout."
I wrestled for 12 years, but I'm a striker now.
Probably more than that. Probably more than that, man.
Really.
And it's such a high level, and he's such a big guy. And Gastelum, for somebody that has weight cutting issues and stuff like that, his gas tank's really unbelievable. So I see that if Weidman can kind of hit him with straight punches, keep him off balance, doesn't let him come in and kind of do his thing, and then whenever he does come in and try to do his thing, Weidman hit him with the takedown and really grind on him, hit him with those big elbows and big punches from the top. I see him being able to take him out. Finishing the fight, it's a crazy one to call. It's kind of like Cerrone versus Lawler to me. It's a crazy fight to call, but I'm going to go with my heart again. I'm going to pick Weidman, being in front of his hometown on such a crazy skid with so many crazy things that happened to him. In all three of those fights, he was winning against Rockhold, and he tries a crazy freaking back kick and gets taken down.
Yeah, and then Weidman was destroying Romero. Really,
yeah, he was beating him.
He was beating him, and Romero just kind of seemed gas, and all of a sudden just came up with a flying knee.
But the thing he needs to take from that is that, even just like with Gastelum, 1 second can change everything. And so you can't lower your guard. I don't even know what Weidman was doing there, man. I swear I don't. I don't know if he saw the knee coming. He was trying to hit a takedown. I have no idea what he was doing. He leaned into it. He couldn't put his head in any better position. Yeah. It was just right there for Romero. And then with the Gegard fight, man, I thought he was winning the first round. I thought he kind of got clipped going into the second. And like a bunch of people have said, I thought he tried to milk the striking to a downed opponent thing, and it was a crazy rule. I remember watching it, have no idea what happened. Joe saying one thing, referee saying another thing. Nobody knows what's happening. It was a crazy rule changing everything else. But the bottom line is you can't milk stuff like that. And because he milked it, it kind of came back to haunt him. And, maybe he was hurt, but I didn't see anything in there that he hadn't faced before. I thought he should have fought through it, and he should have known the scenario, with the rule changes, kind of the issues with the New York Commission, and with being such a big fight for him at that point in time. He should have fought through it, man. He was winning that fight. He had the capability of winning that fight. And that's another thing that scares me. He should have put Gegard on his butt. He needs to put Gastelum on his butt.
Go back to your roots.
And if he has the right people around him telling him this stuff, then hopefully he gets it done tonight. But I watched the pre-fight show. I'm not sure if you watched it. Didn't see him training wrestling at all. Everything.
It's all pad work.
Everything. Well, and even sparring with John Vellante. You know, he's keeping up on the feet, and hopefully that was just for the camera's sake.
Yeah.
I hope he, like I said, uses some simple, easy combinations, keeps him off the jab, being a longer, bigger fighter, and every time Gastelum tries to rush in and being a little bit crazy, he hits the takedown, puts him on his butt, and beats him up, and hopefully finishes him with strikes. So, all right, well, that pretty much concludes our predictions. The next time you'll see us, don't want to run too much of it, but we're going to do a big time podcast for the McGregor-Mayweather fight. Might mix in some other stuff. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. I know the night before that, Koreshkov comes back, which is a fight I'm hugely interested in. So we might break down the Bellator a little bit, and then kind of roll into the big time Mayweather versus McGregor boxing match, and kind of give our thoughts on that as well. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. We'll see you the next go around, and I guess on the next go around we'll know how well these picks play out. So
yeah, we'll have a record and statistics for you because he wrote them all down. So we'll see.
We got them all down for better or worse.
Yeah,
this may be our last podcast.
So. We'll see.
All right, we'll see you guys later.